Bullshit.
Pretend for a moment we've entered a parallel universe, free of bullshit and full of bold solutions. That's what the No BS Show is all about. I'm your host, Dave Mastovich, and it's time to cut the bullshit. The good old days when things were simple. Blue-collar workers were manual laborers who wore blue shirts to mask some of the dirt from a day's work. Bosses wore white-collar shirts because they didn't need to worry about the dirty work and enjoyed the pristine look. Nowadays, we hear terms like green-collar for workers in the environmental sector that focus on green development, and gold-collar to describe jobs that require skilled labor, not necessarily a bachelor's degree. Examples include graphic designers, computer engineers, architectural drafters, researchers, engineers, and top-level customer service reps. Gold-collar workers are creative problem solvers that perform non-repetitive and complex work. They use their minds and their hands equally to create products, services, and ideas. They don't just have knowledge, they use it. These skills and traits make gold-collar workers valuable to employers and those in the education industry, which is where our guest works. Career and technical schools at the secondary and post-secondary levels covet and recruit potential gold-collar workers. Universities also see them as a valuable commodity. How should we communicate with and market to gold-collar workers? Career, vocational, and technical schools must simultaneously convey two major messages to potential students and their parents. Gold-collar positions feature highly skilled, intelligent workers who creatively solve problems while working a career, not a job. You can land a gold-collar position without spending 4 or 5 years working towards a degree at an expensive university. And number two is forget the tired old misperception of career and vocational schools. In today's world, students are intelligent, talented, and creative. Parents and students need to understand that career and technical schools provide valuable education and real-life training for fulfilling, lucrative gold college careers. Conveying these messages clearly and repetitively through direct marketing, traditional and new media campaigns, social media, public relations, it's a necessity for career and vocational schools at the secondary and post-secondary levels. It's not an easy task and requires creative and systematic marketing plans, the kind that talented gold-collar employees might develop and implement. All this stuff is critical today because our guest is going to talk about the university setting, and not everyone's a fit for the university setting, and that's why some people are a better fit for gold-collar. So employers, schools, and universities need to reach and influence gold-collar employees who are vital to our economy. The message should be clear. Gold-collar careers provide those employees with creative, challenging work and a lot of green, as in money. Our guest today is Dr. Audrey Guskey, professor of marketing at Duquesne University, but a whole lot more than that. Audrey's one of the nation's top consumer experts and has appeared in over 3,000, yes, you heard that right, 3,000 TV, radio, newspaper, and magazine interviews discussing consumer trends. She's been on CNN, MSNBC, and she said she's not partisan. She's been on Fox, the CBS Morning Show, Wall Street Journal, Fortune, USA Today, the New York Times. I could go on. She's been a consultant for the Steelers, the Pirates, McDonald's, Iron City Beer. It sounds like she likes working with fun companies, General Motors, and a number of other clients. Audrey, welcome to the show.
Dave, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, we've got a lot to talk about, and we're going to go off the script a little bit because I purposely picked the Cut the BS rant about gold-collar workers because I wanted to just hear your take on it because not everybody's a fit for universities. Universities are vital, still need to be there, but there's a lot of this gold-collar, like 2-year education that can work. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I think the problem is a lot of kids coming out of high school assume that their only option is to go to a 4-year university program. And so the problem then is we don't have as many jobs. The students come up with a huge amount of debt. And that tends to be an issue. And so I think a lot of times students and parents need to really think through that decision and maybe even go to a technical school, 2-year school, try it out, try that career, and then maybe go back to college down the road once they've gotten some work experience.
And there's always a lot of perceptions or misperceptions and stereotypes about community college and career schools. And it's something that we as a society have to overcome. I look at Nora Hewitt, an earlier guest who won the show Face Off. She went to Douglas Education Center's Tom Savini's special effects makeup program. She is out making the big bucks, working in LA, has been on a major TV show. She went to Douglas for 2 years, learned the specifics of what I would call a creative gold collar job. And if she'd have tried to fit in a square peg in a round hole at a university, it might have been a disaster.
Yeah, it could have been a problem for her. And there's a lot of creative young people out there, and they need to use their talents and think through them. Whether it's some kind of design type of a thing, artistic, whether it's technology, whatever creativity and skills that they have, they really need to think about it and endorse it, because I don't think that everyone is cut out for a 4-year college degree. And we're seeing that happen as far as the glut of students coming out of school who really are having trouble finding jobs.
I knew this was going to be great. So we're already off to a great start, but we have so much to talk about. Your intro, I was excited about. You and I have been on shows together. We were recently on with John Delano, a good friend, great guy. His shows are always so much fun. The information that you give is so fantastic, and we're going to get to that as we dig into the show. But let's go all the way back. Walk us through your educational background and your career journey.
Oh, I'd love to do that. Well, when I was way back in high school, Montour High School, and I tried out for an organization called Gimbel's Teen Board, and I made it. And what that was a group of young women, high school girls. At that time, it was only girls. Now it's guys as well. And of course, Gimbel's is no longer in business. But we were representing our high school. We did modeling. We did fashion shows. We did event planning, as well as a lot of charity things. But we worked in the stores. We were able to work retail. And when I started working in retail at Gimbel's, whether it was junior fashions or cosmetics, I fell in love with marketing. And I decided this was going to be my job. It was just such a match for me. And so I pursued it. And I realized that retail wasn't exactly cut out for me. The reason was I had my son very young in my college career. I had him after my freshman year in college.
Okay.
And so I didn't have a lot of time to be able to retail is just such long hours. And so I decided I was going to continue my education, get my master's and my PhD, because I felt I just didn't know enough about marketing. I loved it so much. I just wanted to keep learning and learning. And that worked very well for me. I did a little bit of marketing research, and then I realized that the educational route was the best way for me to go. Duquesne was my number one goal, to be there as a very devout Catholic and someone whose values just fit perfectly with Duquesne. It was a blessing that I got hired there, and it was a very short time ago, 28 years ago. And so I've just loved every minute of it. And so from there, I realized, well, as an educator, I need to not just educate my students, but consumer behavior and consumer trends are just so fascinating and something that everybody really wants to learn about. And so Bill Flanagan, way back in the day, I think it was 1988, contacted me. He was doing an interview, and then it just clicked with me, and I thought, wow, I can share all this information with Pittsburghers as well as across the country. And that's really how it all just, in a sense, morphed into my passion for educating and sharing knowledge about consumer trends with the public.
What's amazing to me with this show, and what's been so fascinating, is how amazing the guests are and their stories. So let's go back, because there's this common thread, and Suzanne and I are working on the 50th episode, and have a lot of ideas for the 100th episode. And as we go through this trend keeps coming back, that people find a passion of some sort and drive to it. So talk about that. You're 17, 18 years old, 16, working at Montour. You get this great Gimbel's gig. Talk about how you kind of knew and some of the specifics.
Yeah, it's just, it was just something inside of you, I love working with people. I loved retail. I loved the psychology of the consumer, which is, I think, what really got me just excited about everything. And the more I explored marketing and consumer behavior, the more I realized this is awesome stuff. And people really need to understand the mind of the consumer, and not just what they're buying, but why they're buying it and how they're buying it. And that just morphed into being a researcher, which as an academic, I do academic research as well. And also with the consulting that I've done. So it's always almost like an investigative reporter, those questions, who, what, when, where, how, why. I always wanted to just know these things. And so as someone at Duquesne, as a professor, it allows me the opportunity to, in a sense, attack all my passions. I'm an educator. I'm a professor there. I can also pursue my public relations activities and sharing my knowledge with consumers across the country, if not the world. And also it allows me to do consulting. So it all, in a sense, works together and has created one great package for me that I can't tell you how excited I am and how blessed I am, because it's really everything that I would ever have imagined being able to do.
Duquesne allows you to do more.
Duquesne does allow me to do more. And you know what? That is my favorite slogan that Duquesne has ever had. And I heard a little birdie told me that, Dave, you came up with that one.
Well,
along with
Suzanne, Mike Minot, and I, back in the day when I was the head of communications, marketing, PR at Duquesne, I had brought in Suzanne and Mike Minot and their agency. And that was a campaign we're really passionate about.
Oh, and I'm serious. It is my all-time favorite campaign at Duquesne, and almost historically, because to me, it really suggests, here's a university, Duquesne, Catholic, strong values and ethics, and yet the students are different from other students. It really sets the students apart from competitive schools. Mm-hmm. And so to me, it says it all. Simple, uses the name. Of course, people always make fun of Duquesne, yes. People don't know how to say it.
That was part of the reason we went with Do More.
And so it just, to me, it's perfect. And I believe in consistency and branding. Mm-hmm. And I know we still use it from time to time, but I wish it was really our overall, umbrella slogan that we're still using.
Well, you talked about research, and we did so much research for that. And Dr. Lloyd Corder, who's also part of this strange team of people that we all work together here at Mass Solutions, and his company's Corecom, they're in the same building, we shared space for 7-8 years. He and I and Suzanne and Mike sat down and said, here's what we want to find out. We wanted to find out what parents of students who were accepted and came thought, and what parents of students who were accepted and didn't come thought, and what parents of kids who didn't even apply thought, and then the students who came, students who were accepted and didn't come, students who didn't even apply. And we were finding out what their backup school was. So we were seeing Duquesne was their first choice, but IUP was their backup. And we were seeing that Pitt was their first choice and Duquesne was their backup. When the management team at Duquesne was hoping that it would say Georgetown was our first choice and Duquesne was a backup, or Duquesne was our first choice and CMU was our second choice, and it wasn't. So we knew we had to change that, and we had to show people why do you go to school? You go to school so you can do more with your life. But while you're at Duquesne, you can do more because it is truly a unique place. It has the bluff. It's beautiful. It's safe. It yet has a lot of activity. You do have the pride with the ring. We wanted to show the ring everywhere because so many executives wear that ring proudly, and we just kept coming back to do more. Suzanne's nodding. She remembers it back in the day.
Awesome days. I remember those days too, Dave. Great. Congratulations on that campaign.
Thank you. So here's the thing. I don't know enough about when you become a doctor of the PhD. So talk us through that. Where'd you go to undergrad, and then how many years after that, and what do you do? Do you have to do a thesis? Talk about how difficult that is.
Okay, I started IUP. My
Another
freshman year.
IUP.
Yes.
Give me some
High five.
here.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, I'm teaching there now,
I knew that, yeah.
And Greg Joseph, our last guest from the Clarks, he was an IUP grad.
I heard that on his show, yeah. So I started there. Mm-hmm. I left after my freshman year because, as I had said, I started my family, got married and had my son. And then I went back to school at Robert Morris very shortly after that, about a year after my son was born. Mm-hmm. And then I felt, as I had said earlier, I didn't think I learned enough. Robert Morris then wasn't the school it is now. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't feel I got quite the education, and I always, in the back of my mind, wanted to teach. So then I went to Pitt for my MBA and for my PhD. The Pitt MBA program at that time still is a one-year program, 11-month program.
Great program.
Very highly recognized program. And then the PhD program typically on average is about 4.5 to 5 years. It took me 9 years because in the meantime I had my daughter.
We had a family.
And I was teaching at Duquesne. So it took me a little bit longer. But it's a huge commitment to your career.
So you land the position at Duquesne when you were like ABD?
ABD, exactly. Okay. Yeah. And so I thought I was closer to finishing than I wasn't. But doing the research and teaching and all that and with the family.
So the dissertation, talk about that a little bit. It's painful, right?
It is painful. It is almost like an initiation into some kind of club or organization because, I hate to say this on radio, but I mean, they sort of like torture you sometimes. They want you to make sure you know what you're doing, but there's also some hoops you have to jump through. And
some BS.
There is. Yes. We need to use that more often. So anyway, to make a long story short, I eventually did get through. But and my dissertation was on helping people. It was called Market Helpfulness, because I did some research with consumers. Once again, trying to get into the mind of the consumer. It's, we're all out there, and yet we're not competing against each other. We're helping each other. So what are some ways consumers help each other? Buying things, sharing coupons, sharing information, seeking information, helping other people in the marketplace. And it was almost like us against them, consumers against big business. And people did it because they were altruistic. They wanted to help other people. They did it because they were involved in the marketplace. Some people are just crazy, passionate about marketing, shopping. And so these are the people, we all know these people, they're out there and they love to share their information.
Yes.
A lot of ego stuff happening as well. And so all that was happening. So I created a scale called consumer altruism, and also I determined behaviors called market helpful behaviors. And so that was my dissertation. And that was way back, and probably in 1990 I finished that. And so that led me to, once again, this idea of helpfulness in the marketplace, which leads up to the book that I've been working on for a few years. And I realized after doing all this research, wait a minute, consumers are out there, and yet there's marketers, retailers, and consumers, but it's not really us against them. We're all in the same boat. It's a win-win, because if I have a service provider who waits on me at Starbucks, and this person sees me every day, and I smile and call her by name, she gets to know my order. In reality, we've created this friendship and this relationship, and that's really what the book is all about. So the book I call Itching for Better Service, Help Yourself. And I collected stories from hundreds of consumers, asking them, what did you do to get better customer service? What particular actions did you take? Good example. I bought a big old Victorian house in Bridgeville, probably about 10 years ago. But it was dirty because it's Pittsburgh and the bricks were dirty.
Yes.
So I brought a guy in, Kurt, and he helped me. He cleaned the bricks. I met him at the Home and Garden Show many years ago. And I was so pleased with what he was doing, because he, in a sense, gave me a new house. To me, charged me a fraction what he probably should have by increasing the value of my home. I fed him every day. I mean, I would, and if you know me, I don't cook. And so, I went out and bought him lunch, but I was trying to help this guy.
Yes.
And then in turn, afterwards, I took before and after pictures. I would meet him every year at the Home and Garden Show. I would give testimonials because I wanted to help this guy, because I believe he really helped me.
Yes.
So that's sort of the impetus of the book. Like, as a customer, how can I help you? You're the salesperson, you're the retailer, you're the marketer, you're the service provider. But in reality, if I help you, you're going to be helping me. And in the end, he ended up cleaning like decks and all kinds of things all over my house that he hadn't even planned to do. So he gave me more than he even expected to give me.
Yes.
But that's not why I was helping. I was helping because he was just so helpful for me.
Exactly.
So as I collected all these stories, hundreds of stories, I came up with what we call these itch words. And they are witch, niche, pitch, bewitch, hitch, glitch, stitch, bitch, of course, which, is close to our...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then snitch and ditch and switch. So there are 10 itch words.
Idea.
And under each of these, it's so cool, because under each of these itch words then are rules as to how to get these better service. So let's say for hitch, you want to become a friend of the service provider. You need to establish a relationship. Glitch, you have to fix their bugs. Glitch means there's problems. Stitch, it's helping you save time because it's a matter of timeliness. Bitch, well, we know what that is.
Yes.
But if you do it right, write complaint letters. And when we say write complaint letters, it's now going online or something.
Reviews.
And reviews and things like that. And then if you're not happy, you want to snitch. And then if you really are unhappy, you want to leave them. And in the beginning, the first couple words were which. You have to know what you want. You have to find your niche, exactly, like what is your role?
Yes.
What is your responsibility as a customer? Pitch, you have to sell yourself, because if they like you, they're going to provide you with better service. And then bewitch, you want to razzle dazzle them. So it's a lot of really fun ideas, fun rules on how, and Dave, I've done research forever on this book. And the story is, there's so many books, as you probably know as a marketer, and Suzanne would know, on how to give better customer service.
Yes.
But as far as I know, there are no books on how you as a customer can get better customer service.
That is an excellent twist.
Yeah.
You have to get that book completed and market it. And I know some people that can help you market.
I think I know them too. And that would be great.
Fantastic,
Yeah.
though. I mean, it's such a great angle. And while she's telling me this, Suzanne, I'm thinking how many times I've been a good customer and how many times I haven't. So many mornings I go to Brugger's and I know everybody there and they know me before. As soon as I come in the door, they're making what they know I'm getting. I talk to each of them by name, ask them about their kids, or they ask me. And so it's like a part of my life that
Absolutely.
I like.
Absolutely.
But then when you go and you go into Verizon, it's never that feeling when you're going to the Verizon store. Sorry, Verizon, but it's true for me personally. It's true. So
what can you do when you go into Verizon so that way they will treat you as every company's favorite customer, because that's what you want to be. We are special. We spend a lot of money on services, and we want to be treated as a celeb, as a VIP, as somebody that every time you walk into a Verizon or any kind of service provider, they would treat you with the respect that they should and provide you with the best service because you're paying for it. And you don't, and you know, the opposite is true. A lot of times you think you have to be like really nasty and mean, but no, it's simply the golden rule. You be nice to somebody else, smile at them, call them by name. It's very simple rules, but it works.
And I'll tell you one of the things, like I agree with you. I don't do the be a prick or jerk or bitch or whatever when I go into like a car situation to buy a car. I don't play that game. I'm just straight up. But I will say what I think happens with some experiences for me personally is I think subconsciously I'm tense going into Verizon because it's rarely a good experience and you're usually having to negotiate, or you broke your phone, or they're going to tell you it takes this long. So then you go in kind of stiff and tense and they respond to that, and it ends up becoming, and plus they're probably a little bit overwhelmed. There's probably too many people. Their volumes are too high. But I think that's why I like her book. It can kind of teach us, Audrey, it could teach us to like tweak our approach when we're going in as a customer.
Because most of the time as a customer, if you have an issue with Verizon or whoever it is, you don't call them and say, "Thank you, Verizon, for providing me with a great service. I appreciate it. Keep up the good work." We never do that.
No.
We go into the store if something's broken. We go into the store if we're having problems. We call them on the phone if we're having issues with something.
Yes.
We contact them when there's problems, and a lot of times we're problems customers. And I could be as bitchy as anybody.
Yeah, I was going to say the snitch and ditch and all those are nice, but I'm guessing the one that comes up the most frequently is bitch.
Well, believe it or not, typically, if you know what you want, and you keep in mind, these were stories from people who had good experiences.
Yes.
So very few customers actually take it, in a sense, down to the end, where they're ditching and switching someone or even bitching. Because if you do it properly, a lot of times you won't have to accelerate to those upper level stages where, you know, when you're having huge problems.
How'd you gather the stories? I know some were probably just people you know and friends, but how'd you gather a big abundance of them?
Students, of course. That's what students are for. So I would give assignments to the students in class, and I would say, tell me your story. Think of a particular situation where you were really satisfied with the situation, and it was something that you did to improve the customer service. And so they all, and then it expanded. So in addition to them doing it for themselves, find 5 more people and collect 5 more stories. And so I was able to collect hundreds of stories.
So there's a lesson for me here. I don't take advantage of my students.
You got to take advantage of the students. And the beautiful part is they learned a lot too.
Yes.
And I'm still staying in touch with a lot of students, and I'm using a lot of their stories actually in the book. In giving them credit for it. So that way, because these are situations, someone bought a wedding gown and they had issues with the alterations, and they go back and they're just very kind to the person, and they say, well, I'm willing to pay a little bit more, but this really wasn't my fault. And, in reality, it all works out because these students, these customers got significantly better customer service. It was awesome. It is awesome. The stories are awesome. They're fun. They're fun to read. It almost reminds me of the Chicken Soup book. The little stories, and you can all relate to them. And that's what I'm trying to have, this very, in a sense, user savvy and very interesting for people to read, and also easy to apply. So that's why I narrowed it down to the 10.
And what did you say you think the title is going to be?
I think the title is going to be Itching for Better Service, Help Yourself. Because it's getting the itch.
Good.
Originally, it was service roles, how to be treated as every company's favorite customer. But I think I like using the itch. And really, it's helping yourself. It gets to the key point. You want to help yourself, and you want to help other people. And it's all a matter of being good people and helping each other, which goes back to my dissertation back in the day.
We're with Dr. Audrey Guskey. If there's a no BS marketer out there, she's it. And it's the No BS Show. I'm your host, Dave Mastovich. So now we go to the part about we've all seen it, or should I say smelled it, BS in the workplace. So give me an example from the past when you just had to say, it could be a company culture, questionable leadership, or poor work ethic.
Well, I could probably use my students as examples. I'm not sure if that's appropriate.
Okay.
But, when you're teaching students,
Yes.
a lot of times you get these excuses from students. And what I've noticed lately about the students, and this is, I think, across the board, any student, you probably noticed that your IUP students, it's a different culture than it was 28 years ago when I first started teaching. And so the students now have not just an entitlement attitude, but they just expect everything, in a sense, handed to them. So for example, they now don't take note. A lot of the students don't take notes as I'm speaking, as I'm teaching. They have, we call it Blackboard. It's a site where they can print the notes off for every class period. And so they're listening, but sometimes they're not listening. If you have notes in front of you, you're not paying as much attention as you actually have to write it down. And also, they have devices in front of them. And I know this is a big thing that academics always argue about. Should you let them have their phone? Should you let them have tablets or laptops? Well, sometimes they are taking notes and they're reviewing things and checking things out legitimately. And a lot of times they're not. And so I've noticed that their attention span is much shorter because of all the technology. So I think it's just an issue that academics tend to have in today's, university world, that students are a different breed. You have to really be interesting to keep their attention, but you also have to be smart enough to in a sense, help them to be better students by explaining to them, well, you need to do this, you need to take notes, you need to pay attention. Just because it's in front of you doesn't mean it's going to automatically be absorbed in your brain. And the beautiful part about teaching marketing is that it's so application oriented. I mean, we do it every day. We're shoppers, we're constantly out in the marketplace. So it's not accounting or finance where it's a field that it's hard to relate to. Everyone can relate to marketing. So if you listen and then you apply it to your own situation, I tell them, you have to apply it to yourself, but yet you have to almost be like an alien who was dumped on the planet. And then what are you going to do? You're seeing all these people. What are they doing? So you have to take yourself like an out-of-body experience, because it's not all about you all the time. You have to figure out what are other customers doing as well.
I've thought about this a lot, and I vacillate somewhat, but I'm going to stick with this. I think that each generation, when they're 15 to 25, gets criticized. I remember I'm a Gen Xer, and I remember getting bashed. Generation X was getting bashed because we were going to work at 7 places in our lifetimes. And back then you worked at 1 or 2. And the boomers have been bashed forever. And so I'm going to say I think that the millennials have the potential to actually be a great generation, and they're getting bashed right now. So, but yet I agree with everything you said as a professor. I go through it. But here's where I would expand it. I don't think it's just 18 to 25-year-olds. I think it's 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, and 70-year-olds, people who used to take more notes, people who used to be more attentive, aren't.
Yes, I did an interview with David Highfield yesterday on KDK TV about this almost exact same thing. We were talking car insurance rates are going up. The reason for that is because there are more accidents. The reason for that is more people are texting and talking and doing all kinds of distractions. And so I think we are a society where we're very much distracted.
Yes, so that's what I'm saying is I think that I have clients, employees, friends, family that you talk to them and they're not not like, look, I have all kinds of issues. Anyone knows me knows I have issues, so I'm not. I just happen to be. That's something I'm actually pretty decent at. I take notes, but it's baffling to me whenever you're getting something significant in the workplace, or we'll have an intern. We'll start out sitting at a table like this with 3 or 4 senior level people in the company, and we'll talk to them. They don't take a note.
Yeah. How could they remember that?
And you just go, it's over. This internship stinks because we're not getting much out of this person.
Can I plug my website?
Sure, go ahead.
I'd like to talk about my website a little bit. It's draudreyguskey.com. I have a video series that I've been working on for years called Consumer Sense.
Okay.
And one of my big sponsors is Aldi. We know the discount supermarket. And Aldi's been sponsoring.
We just started taking credit cards today. Just hit the news.
That's
I think
exactly.
it's this week, right? Okay, sorry.
Yes.
I mess up your whole
Oh,
thing.
no. Oh, no, no, no. We all know how fabulous they are and the great
Yes.
prices and the great quality of merchandise that they have. Well, Consumer Sense is on Comcast's On Demand. And so we have 30-second commercials where you could be watching TV, Weather Channel. Here I am. Hi, this is Dr. Audrey Guskey with Consumer Sense. Interested in saving some money at supermarkets? Interested in tips on weddings? Click OK on your remote. It's called VODT, Video On Demand TV. It takes you automatically to On Demand where you can watch it there. But it's also always housed on demand. So you don't have to necessarily watch the commercial to be able to pick up this video. And this, of course, on our website as well. But we've gotten rave reviews about that, and people love it because it's a short video, 5 minutes, and it usually has a tips, trend, and Aldi talking about opening of their different stores.
That is great stuff. This is Audrey Guskey. And Audrey, we're going to put you on the spot now, because you gave us an example of BS with those students, but now you have to talk about a learning experience when maybe you were the BS employee, maybe you were the tough professor, or maybe your communication wasn't what it needed to be. Looking back, when could somebody have done this? Called you out for that.
Well, there's so many examples, Dave. Where do I begin? But I'm thinking it's when I was working on my dissertation, perhaps, and I'm a perfectionist, and so I'm trying to keep working on it and have it really a good, really good research document. And in reality, I think I could have pushed that a little bit faster. So that might have been one of the situations that I encountered where I wasn't, I was just bullshitting too much in the way of just, get the job done. I'm a procrastinator, and I think that tends to show up quite. I don't think the word's procrastinator. Being a perfectionist, and I just have problems with closure.
Yes.
The book is the same way. I've been working on the book for a long time, and it really should be done and move on to something else.
Having written the book, Get Where You Want to Go, How to Achieve Personal Professional Growth Through Marketing, Selling, and Storytelling, which my team tells me I don't mention enough on the show, so they'll all be happy.
Good.
But having written that, I can attest to what you said. Being a perfectionist as well, it took incredible discipline, and then I finally just got sick of it and said, I'm throwing this in front of my brother first, who's a great editor. And I said, okay, now I have 212 pages. Have at it. He went the other direction and edited it down to like, this comma is wrong. And I'm like, no, I wanted you to tell me whether it sucks or not. But he gave me some good feedback. Then I came back to Mike Gaddy and I said to him and Mike Minnow, and I think even Suzanne, key people I was just showing it to. And then after I got their edits, I just said, to hell with it. And there's a line from Seth Godin. He always says, ship it. And we try to live by that because Suzanne's a perfectionist, so is Mike Gaddy, so is Mike Mastovich, so is Mike Minnow, so am I. And if we don't ship stuff, we won't succeed as a company. So I just shipped it, and like a year later, I found a typo on page like 172. Honestly, I didn't see it for a year. And I'm thinking, well, if I didn't see it for a year, other than my mom, who probably read every page, no one else probably caught it, So my advice would be just ship it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you have to keep in mind that most people are going to scan it. People will come to you and say, I want your book. Would you sign it? And then I know them well enough that I can say, just give it to me straight. How much of it did you read? I read that preface when you mentioned your kids. That was pretty cool. And I want that one chapter about sports I read. So even people who care deeply, who wanted the book signed, aren't going to read. So my advice is ship it, because only you are going to know that page 112 wasn't the way you wanted it.
That is great advice. That really is, and it comes at a very good time for me because I've reached the point like you had. It's time. It's time to be done. I've worked on it too long. It's time to move on to book number 2, not necessarily keep staying with one.
Yes.
And also, Maya Angelou said, don't die with something about unsung song in your heart or something.
Yeah.
And I'm fearful that I'm never going to get it done, and I need to get it out because my point is, I really want to help other people. And so I figure by that passion of sharing what I've learned with other people and helping them get better customer service, that's the bottom line. That's the goal.
Audrey, no BS. The book as you described it is one that can go national. We all write books for different reasons. I wrote mine. I wanted to write a book. I wanted to have something to say, and I just did it. And I knew that book necessarily wasn't going to be a bestseller. And I'm not saying yours necessarily going to be like the Stephen King one, but I'm saying that you have a concept that can go beyond. It doesn't look like you wrote it to write it. It looks like this is truly helpful. So you have a concept that you need to get that down.
And I think also in my favor, I guess I can BS about me. That, I've been doing a lot of media, so I can, and I'm a marketer. So if anybody can promote this book, it should be me.
I would agree. So, Audrey, how can listeners contact you if they'd like to learn more about what you do?
Well, they can always go to my website, draudreyguskey.com. A lot of my current videos and past videos are there. It's a good way for them to reach me. I'm on Facebook. Please become my friend on Facebook, draudreyguskey.com, Twitter as well, and Consumer Sense. As I said, that's my video series.
Okay.
So I also have a Facebook page, Consumer Sense. It's SENSE, not like penny sense, Consumer Sense, and I have a great production team, and we have a lot of fun putting it together and sending it out to everybody. And we update it. We've got a lot of blog information, a lot of information. So please have people follow me. That would be great.
Audrey, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, Dave. Always great to be here.
Suzanne, thanks for the production, leading this, the cutting edge producer of podcasts in America, Suzanne Mayer.
You are the best, Suzanne.
And thanks for joining us for the No Bullshit Marketing Podcast. Visit boldsolutions.nobs.com for show notes, plus additional marketing and messaging resources. Remember to sign up for light reading. You'll receive valuable strategies every other week to improve your marketing and transform your message. It really is light, intended to be read in 2 minutes or less, and it just might trigger bright ideas for you. To sign up, visit masssolutions.biz. Remember, ask yourself, what's the big idea? And build your story around the answer. It's all about bold solutions.